Let's say 2026 at the latest for AGI. Roughly 1% chance of civilization ending in any given century. I think we'll launch the first Starship to Mars in less than 3 years. This is a test of X streaming and a test of Starlink. So I'm just going to do just a quick dungeon run with the Diablo. Try to answer any questions people have that show up on the chat. So I just have my main screen here, and I've got an iPad set up for chat. And I think we've made a lot of improvements, but we'll see how it goes. I'm using Streamlabs right now. So you can use OBS or Streamlabs, and you can stream simultaneously to the X platform and to Twitch. So if you're streaming to Twitch, you might as well stream to X too. The reach on the X platform is hard to beat. But yeah, you can use OBS or Streamlabs or whatever you like. Streamlabs is a little easier to set up, but it'll work with pretty much any streaming software. And this is all on Starlink, so it's a good test for Starlink as well. So this is all coming in over satellite. Yeah, this is Starlink. We've gotten the median latency of Starlink down to around 30 milliseconds in the US. So it's about equal to cable. And I think long term, like in the next, I don't know, year or two, we should be able to get the Starlink latency below 20 milliseconds. But yeah, Starlink seems to be doing pretty well. No packet loss, no noticeable latency so far in the game. I took my kids to see the Monster Jam monster truck at the Austin Arena. That's where I was earlier today. Just my kids love Monster Truck next level. I don't have time for games. So games are my two sort of non-work things that I do are hang out with my kids and play, and the other thing is play video games. And then when the kids get to the right age, you can play video games with your kids, which is awesome. Yeah, pretty excited about the Starship launch 4. That was great. I think that was sort of like a 20% lucky outcome because both the booster had a soft landing and the ship had a soft landing in the ocean. So we got a lot of great data. And unless something comes up that we think is problematic, we'll try to bring the booster back and catch it with the giant Mechazilla arms. And we definitely want a rocket to reach Uranus. That's it's a stretch goal to reach Uranus. But definitely something we think we should aim for. The tower is actually taller than Mechazilla from the movie. So giant Mechazilla arms will aspirationally catch this gigantic rocket. It's going to boost back. I mean, excitement is guaranteed. Success, not necessarily, but it won't be boring. So that's going to be an epic sight. Giant robot arms catch giant rocket. Starship is the largest flying object of any kind. It's 5,000 tons. At liftoff, body diameter is 9 meters or roughly 30 feet, and going to get taller with newer versions. So it's an insanely gigantic thing. When we first started figuring out the Starship design, it seemed utterly insane, and now it's gone from utterly insane to merely late. Next launch, Starship launch is probably in about a month. We have to we're going to replace the whole heat shield on the ship. So the new heat shield tile is about twice as strong as the ones that were on the last flight. So, and we want to put an ablative secondary structure, like basically ablative protection behind the tiles, so that if a tile cracks or comes loose, it doesn't cook the rocket. It's pretty incredible that the rocket, that the ship made it all the way to the ocean, despite the right front flap getting cooked very hard. It was kind of like a skeleton hand. But I made it. But on the next flight, we want to not have the tiles fly off and have a skeleton flap. So the new tiles will, like I said, about twice as strong, or hopefully half as likely to crack or come off. And we're going to put like I said, secondary ablative material below the tiles, so that if a tile does crack or come off, it's got a good shot of returning. We ran 2 experiments with tiles on this flight, which people may have noticed because they saw why there's some missing tiles on this last flight. They were intentionally missing because we were testing the secondary heat shield material, which is like a silicone felt ablative. It's not good for reuse, but it's good for saving your butt if a tile cracks or falls off. Very tricky to put these tiles, have them work well, because tiles are ceramics. They're like a coffee cup or a dinner plate. So you got a whole bunch of dinner plates stuck on the side of a rocket that is shaking like hell. And it's shrinking cryogenically with the propellant, and then expanding under pressure. And then you've got the tiles expanding when they get hot. So there's a lot of expansion and contraction happening while trying to keep all these brittle tiles from cracking or falling off. It's a tricky problem. No one has ever actually succeeded in making a reusable orbital heat shield. The shuttle heat shield took, I think, 9 months, 1,000 people, a massive amount of work between flights. So I wouldn't characterize that as reusable in a meaningful way. And we're aiming for full reusability. So the ship comes back, gets caught by the Mechazilla arms, and is then placed back on top of a booster for immediate reflight. That's the goal. I don't know why the plasma was purple. I always like pretty much every color. Now, we were burning things. So probably I don't think all those colors should be there for not burning things, but it's still going to be quite the light show. And what you're seeing with the Starship coming back in is just exactly what the camera sees. So there's no post-production, there's no editing, nothing. That is the live stream from the camera. It's what you would see if you looked out the window. It does look awesome. Yeah, I'm pretty fired up, actually. I was really walking on clouds after the Starship launch. SpaceX team did an amazing job, and we're really doing things that have never been done before. So the key to making life multiplanetary and being a true spacefaring civilization is full and rapid reusability, so that you don't have to get a new rocket every time you want to fly somewhere. We live on a planet where the gravity Earth's gravity is high, and we have a dense atmosphere. So if this was a video game, it would be set on extreme difficulty. So it's very extremely difficult, but not impossible. So I'm confident this it will work. Just a question of how many attempts we need to make it work, and then make it work really well. And then for building a city on Mars, you need thousands of ships, because you can only go to Mars every 26 months. So Earth and Mars the planets basically align every 2 years, and you've got a short window of a couple months to launch from Earth. So you need thousands of ships if you're going to build a city. And then the ships can only come back, best case, every 2 years, but realistically more like every 3 or 4. So in order to build a city on Mars, let's say if you're aiming for 1 million, whatever's, I'm not sure what the right number is for being self-sustaining, but I think it's maybe on the order of 1 million people, and maybe 10 million tons of cargo to build up the infrastructure necessary to be self-sustaining. The critical threshold to pass, some people would call it like the Fermi filter, sort of after Enrico Fermi. The threshold is get Mars to the point where if the ships from Earth stop coming for any reason, that the Mars city does not die out. So you could have everything except for one little thing that you're missing, and then if those resupply ships stop coming, game over. So we need to get to the point where Mars can survive even if those ships stop coming, where the civilization ends with a bang or a whimper. That's the purpose of SpaceX, make life multiplanetary. Make life multiplanetary, the probable lifespan of civilization is dramatically greater, and we can go eventually from the solar system to other star systems and maybe discover many long-dead alien civilizations. I think it's very exciting. How long till we get the first city on Mars? So we're trying to speed run Mars. Speed run making Mars self-sustaining. That's the goal. So can we make Mars self-sustaining while civilization has a high enough tech level to keep sending ships to Mars? That's what it comes down to. I think it can be done in 20 to 30 years. If you have an exponential increase in ships going, it's 20 years, but I tend to be optimistic about time, so maybe it's 30 years, hopefully not 40 years. And we'll do the moon too. So the moon will do the moon along the way. The moon's basically in the backyard compared to Mars. But Mars is obviously Mars is a real planet, and has a lot more resources than the moon. And it's much more likely that if something were to happen to Earth, Mars is more likely to survive than a moon city, because you can shoot a moon base from Earth. It's very hard to shoot a Mars base from Earth. Mars is more likely to survive than the moon if there's some like global thermonuclear war. Like Stephen Hawking, his estimate when I talked to him many years ago was that he thought there's like roughly a 1% chance of civilization ending in any given century. So, and it's wild to think that Earth has been around for 4.5 billion years. And this is the first time in 4.5 billion years that it has been possible to extend life beyond Earth. So that window may be open for a long time or a short time, but I think we should assume, to be safe, that it will only be open for a short time. So we got to hustle. What do I think of 3D printing? So SpaceX, I think, has the most advanced 3D metal printing capabilities in the world. If there's someone more advanced, we just don't know who they are, but I'm pretty confident we've got the most advanced 3D metal printing. Many of the Raptor engine parts are 3D metal printed. Now, I don't recommend trying to print the whole rocket. That's You'd need a ridiculously gigantic printer for that. And metal printing consists of millions of metal dust and millions of laser welds. So I don't think it makes sense to try to print the primary structure. And even for the Raptor rocket parts, 3D metal printing is slow and expensive compared to casting or machining. So it's debatable, actually. We actually want to print fewer things, not more things. If you have a part that has complex geometry with a lot of internal flow circuits, that's something that's very difficult to cast, like a turbo pump housing. That's where printing is potentially the winner. But generally, I try to print the least amount of stuff possible. Add avoid highways option to Tesla navigation. All right, sure. And boring machines, yeah, we'll have boring machines on the moon and Mars. I mean, anything that can be underground, you want it to be underground because shielded from radiation, it's insulated from temperature changes. So there's going to be probably a lot of hobbit holes on Mars and the moon. Yeah, mosquitoes. We managed to actually tackle the mosquitoes for parts of Starbase, but man, mosquitoes they're a difficult beast to battle. You may have seen Nolan, who's the first Neuralink patient. After he got the Neuralink, he spent all night playing Civilization, which is awesome. That's exactly what I'd do if I were him. Will probably be a lot of Optimus bots on Mars. You don't need to terraform Mars to make it self-sustaining. Over time, you could terraform Mars and make it be like Earth. But that'll take a while, even if you take the fast path. I think the right move is to get the city on Mars to be self-sustaining as quickly as possible, so as to secure the long-term future of consciousness and life as we know it, and thereafter work on terraforming. With SpaceX flight to Mars, I think within 3 years, we'll launch the first Starship to Mars in less than 3 years, and things will really go exponential from there. So send a few ships on the first Mars rendezvous, which is Earth and Mars align every 2 years. So send a few ships first time, maybe 3. Confirm that they can land well, and then crank it up from there. Then go to 20 or 30 ships in the second rendezvous, 100 on the third, and try to get to 1,000 ships going to Mars every rendezvous every 2 years, as quickly as possible. And yeah, you can terraform Mars while people are there. Terraforming Mars mostly consists of warming it up, which you can do with solar reflectors in orbit. Or just a lot of thermonuclear explosions. And yeah, we'll send Starlink satellites to Mars too, so Mars will have great internet. Mars is anywhere from 4 to roughly 20 light minutes away, so you won't be able to do anything real time on Mars, but texting, emails, and whatnot will work. You could synchronize the internet, the Earth internet on Mars. It'll just be with a 4 to 20 minute delay. We're still waiting for Starlink approval in Turkey, so I don't know what the timing on that is. But we're now at, I think, 100. Starlink is now approved in 100 countries in the world. You could terraform Mars. Depends on how adventurous you want to be for terraforming Mars. If you really want to go super fast, I don't know, maybe you could do it in less than 100 years. And not everyone needs to go to Mars. Obviously, figure out of the 8 billion people on Earth, maybe 1 million might want to go. It's not going to be a luxury destination. Not for a very long time. So the sales pitch for Mars would be kind of like the apocryphal Shackleton ad, which is it's dangerous, cramped, uncomfortable, a tough life, some chance you'll die. Who's in? Yeah, Mars will be tough sledding for a while, but like I said, important for ensuring long-term survival of consciousness. So there's at least some number of people that are willing to go on a dangerous expedition in cramped conditions in a relatively tiny metal can. It'll be a fun adventure if you live. Yeah. I've been asked a number of times, do I want to die on Mars? I'm like, well, I do want, I'm going to die somewhere. Sure, why not die on Mars? I just don't want to die on impact. And there's no age limit. You can go to Mars if you're young or old. And I am an optimist. that description of going to Mars, that was the optimistic version. Oh yeah, Grok's coming to Tesla, so you'll be able to access Grok through your Tesla, and you'll just be able to ask it to do whatever you want. You could ask your car to go pick up a friend or anything. You can think of it; the car will be able to do it. Yeah, you'll be able to ask your Tesla to go pick up groceries, pretty much anything. Optimus is really going to be next level. You'll be able to skin Optimus in a wide, pretty much with anything. So people on the internet have asked me to make catgirls real, and actually, you can make catgirls real if you have a robot. You have a robot catgirl. Yeah, Optimus will be able to pick up the kids from school And Optimus will be able to be school if you want, be able to teach kids anything. Yeah, and it'll support any language too. I think AGI will be next year, probably. It's not next year, it's, let's say 2026 at the latest for AGI, at the latest. I hope it's nice to us. So one defines AGI as smarter than any human. I think we're less than 24 months away from that. Yeah, please be nice to us, AGI. Humanoid robots will usher in a level of abundance that was hard to imagine. There will be no shortage of goods and services. Yeah, Optimus can be your bodyguard. Yeah, people will have Optimus in their home. I think probably everyone's going to have an Optimus, maybe more than one. The price of Optimus, I mean, ultimately, I think Optimus is probably like $20,000 or something like that, maybe 30. At volume production, Optimus, the parts in Optimus will cost less than a car. So long term is probably $20,000, $30,000. I think future wars between major powers will be drone wars. Drones don't miss. I don't think you want to have people fighting drones. That's for sure. I mean, long term, I think there'll be more. The ratio of humanoid robots will be more than 1-to-1. So there might be 2 humanoid robots or more, maybe 10 for every 1 human, which means well in excess of 10 billion humanoid robots. Any good podcast recommendations? Yeah. The Explorers podcast is excellent. The Age of Napoleon, Revolutions. I like history podcasts in general. Of course, Dan Collin. If you've not listened to Dan Collin Hardcore History, that would probably be my top recommendation. Yeah, I've listened to so many history podcasts. Mr. Zoo, have you listened to any good podcasts lately? It's just called Glass Cannon.
Yep, the Glass Cannon podcast.
Okay. I mean, as an audiobook, very long audiobook, I'd recommend The Story of Civilization by Durant. That'll keep you occupied for a long time. The Story of Civilization. And something that's really good as an audiobook is the Penguin edition of the Iliad. So the Iliad was meant to be a spoken poem, so obviously lends itself very well to being an audiobook. And Penguin did a great job of speaking the Iliad. It's quite engaging. Another great book is The Parasitic Mind by God Saad. His last name is Saad. Parasitic Mind is great. So a book on happiness as well, which is also quite good. I'm a big fan of God Saad, and I just generally love history. Any kind of narrative history it's just a story, really, and it's a story about reality, or at least someone's perception of reality. We are entering the age of abundance. Well, it's the age of either utopia or dystopia. We're careening towards dystopia/utopia. I think it'll be most likely be good. I think the future will most likely be good. History is written by the victors. Yeah, history used to be written by the victors, but these days, if the loser is still alive and has time on their hands to edit Wikipedia, then history is in fact written by not the winners. So the reason history was written by the victors in the old days is because the losers were dead. Now they're very much alive and have time on their hands. Why don't we have Grokipedia? Well, effectively, Grok will have a superset of what's on Wikipedia. So it'll have Wikipedia plus every history book ever written. So and every book ever written, really, or the summation thereof. So if you have a question, you'll be able to ask Grok and it'll just tell you. Latency right now, we'll find out. So right now, latency is kind of 56 milliseconds, but that's going all the way to the Blizzard servers. So that's inclusive of everything. The Starlink latency is about 30 milliseconds, and we should be able to get it under 20 milliseconds. Speed of light is the one thing we cannot overcome. But so the up down for a packet to bounce through space, the satellite to the ground and back again, is currently about 8 milliseconds. So you can't beat the 8 milliseconds. Future versions of Starlink will be at a lower altitude, so that'll be probably closer to a 5 or 6 millisecond latency. And then the rest is really just up to wherever you're trying to go on the internet. Well, we'll see. I think Megazilla's got a decent chance of catching the rocket. Probably, 50% chance. But the booster will come back. It'll have an impact point that's out to sea. So it'll have to steer itself towards the tower with the catch arms. And if the booster detects that anything's wrong, it'll suicide itself into the ocean. If things are looking good, it'll steer over to the tower, and the arms should be able to grab it. And just like Falcon 9 landings, so it took quite a few attempts before it worked. Like it was like 14 attempts all in, depending on how you count it. And now it's, knock on wood, it's somewhat routine that the Falcon 9 booster lands. The tower I think that we'll be able to make the tower robust to, thousands of landings. And we do have interesting satellite program with UC Berkeley and Seoul Perlmutter, where Seoul wants to take a ground telescope, a lens for a ground telescope, and put that in space, which would be, that ground lens wouldn't be competitive on Earth. In space, it would be epic. So to be combining that lens with more advanced electronics, it probably is roughly 10. It would probably be roughly 10 times the resolution of Hubble. Yeah, the reason we want to put the next generation Starlink satellites lower is that if a satellite does die out, then if you're lower in the atmosphere, it'll deorbit and burn up fast, and the atmosphere ends up kind of like a orbital cleaner. And the lower you are, the faster it'll sort of clean up a dead satellite. More kids, 100. I have a lot of kids. I do encourage people. I always encourage my friends to have kids. Happy to see that many of them are. Yeah, Flight 5 is hopefully about a month away. Flight 5 of Starship hopefully a month away. I'm just answering I'm just going to answer some random questions from the chat here. I'm drinking Diet Coke, which is an easy guess. The candle smells like a candle. It is not scented. And Starlink is continuously upgrading to improve the latency. Well, there's the satellites are being upgraded, the terminals being upgraded, the ground stations being upgraded, everything is being upgraded. So Starlink will just get better and better over time. The long-term goal is, not long-term, but like maybe next year or something, is to try to get the latency down under 20 milliseconds. That's the hardest thing to solve. Little X, last time I saw him was in the pool. We're not going to do a Tesla phone, but yeah, Starlink will get better over time, and the X platform as well. So the question is, how will Starship overcome fuel, boil-off, and thermal issues on deep space missions? Well, first of all, Starship actually is mostly oxygen. The propellant is about 77% liquid oxygen, 23% liquid methane, and you only really need the header tanks to have propellant for landing. So you do Mars transit with the main tanks, and then the header tanks, which are well insulated, will be what's used to land on Mars. And how long before Florida gets to see a Starship launch? We're aiming to have Starship launch capability out of Florida around the middle of next year. So hopefully first launch before the end of next year. Thanks to everyone who voted the Tesla shares. Much appreciated. And yeah, there's an X app that is coming for smart TVs, so it'll be native to any TV long term. So you can just like look for the X app and just access X videos on any TV. For now, you can sort of cast it to your TV. Well, it works pretty well for just casting from your phone. Earth to Mars Starship flight would be about 6 months. Eventually, you could probably get the trip down under 3 months. Mars is pretty far, so I guess my guess is eventually it gets down to maybe a couple months. Retail's with you, Tesla. Thanks. Thank you, retail shareholders of Tesla. Appreciate the support, guys.
If you catch it next time with the neck arm, that would be insane.
Yeah, it is insane. Excitement guaranteed, success maybe. I mean, it's pretty absurd because like this has never been. Yeah, nobody's even tried to do anything this crazy. I think it's helpful to like think of things in the limit of physics, like what is the physically fastest possible way to achieve reusability. And if you have landing legs, then, well, you got all the mass and complexity of the landing legs, but then you've got to move a giant rocket from the landing pad to the launch pad, which is not easy. And you've got to stow the legs and transfer the rocket back onto the lifting arms to get it back on the launch mount. So like, well, why don't we just have it land on the arms? It will eventually work. And that's just the fastest possible reuse, is land on the thing that puts you in the launch stand to begin with.
What is roughly the time frame? Like how long from now are you going to attempt this?
Well, maybe as soon as a month. Elon, did you know you can interact with an AI dog from Grok? There's actually a toy called Grok, oddly enough. Name is a coincidence. That is a toy that connects to AI. So you have like a super intelligent toy. One of the questions was, did we consider other designs for Starship? Yeah. So Starship went through, I forget how many iterations before it got to its current form. There's a lot of ways to solve the problem of full and rapid reusability. And Starship was going to be a carbon fiber, like the primary material was going to be carbon fiber, high-end carbon fiber, and the propellant was going to be hydrogen on the fuel side, always oxygen on the oxygen side. And hydrogen is just, well, it's way too much of a pain. You can get about the same delta V with hydrogen stage as you can with a methane stage. So you can get high performance methane engine can get to an ISP up of around 380 seconds, but it's about the vehicle is about half the size of a hydrogen fuel vehicle. So when you get to very big rockets, the limitation is the volume of the rocket. Like, how big is it? What is the biggest thing you can move around? And for a given amount of volume, hydrogen is actually not efficient. A methane rocket is more efficient than hydrogen, and methane is cheap and easy, and hydrogen is expensive and difficult. So that's why I switched us from hydrogen to methane. And then we were using an advanced carbon fiber for the primary structure, but we were not making progress. So we were having trouble even making a small cylinder section of the super expensive carbon fiber, which was about $120 a kilogram. And I was like, well, at this rate, I'll be dead before this rocket is completed. So I switched us to steel. I thought it was a pretty good bet because the original Atlas rocket was stainless steel. So I knew it couldn't be that bad. And unlike, say, aluminum, lithium, or carbon fiber, you can weld steel outdoors. It's very easy to join. And stainless steel has actually increases in strength at cryogenic temperatures. So you can get around a 50% strength increase, if not more. And when both the fuel and the oxidizer are cryogenic, so you get that advantage in both fuel and oxidizer. Unlike, say, in Falcon, where the fuel is rocket propellant grade kerosene. It's basically refined jet fuel, but it's more or less a room temperature fuel. So with kerosene or RP1, you will not get the cryogenic bonus, but with methane you will. Then the high temperature capability of steel is much better than aluminum by a lot. And when you have a reusable rocket, you're coming in very hot. So you need something that can handle the heat. So with the steel structure, you actually don't need any heat shielding on the leeward side, and you need a much lighter heat shield on the windward or hot side. So it turned out that steel was not just the cheapest and fastest way, but it was also the lightest, somewhat counterintuitively the lightest material. So it doesn't sound like it should be the lightest, but all things considered, it is. And then the reusability of the booster is more or less a scaled up Falcon 9 using grit fins and pulsive landing, with the big difference being that it gets caught by the tower instead of landing on a landing pad. Now, it'll probably take us a while to perfect catching a giant rocket out of the air with Mechazilla arms. But once that is solved, it will be much better than having landing legs. And then the ship's is sort of a strange thing, because it sort of looks like an airplane in that it's got these flaps, but it's really just trying to brake the entire time. When it's coming back in, airplanes are trying to maximize their lift and minimize their drag, but the ship portion of Starship is trying to maximize this drag. It's just trying to be a giant brake pad. So it's trying to slow down the entire, get from about Mach 23 or so, or depending on what orbit it's coming back in from, Mach 23 to 27, let's say. Try to get subsonic and then just float down like someone pulling. Like, the way to imagine how the ship portion handles itself is like a skydiver. So those flaps are like the arms and legs of a skydiver, and it's falling belly first, and just moving its flaps like you'd move your arms and legs if you were falling. And then it lights the engines and turns around and goes vertical and lands, which we've already tested that portion of it. So we know that works. You can see the videos online if you're interested.
Rocket science and video games.
Yeah, exactly. Rocket science and video games. Pretty much. I think we'll be able to get Starship, a stretched version of Starship should be able to achieve a 200-ton payload to orbit with full reusability. A lot of work between here and there, but that's what, if you run the physics on it, 200 tons, fully reusable is possible. And then the booster comes back very fast, especially as we increase the thrust on the booster. The booster will come back and land in about 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes, depending on how much thrust. But at high thrust levels, probably 5 minutes from rocket liftoff to the booster coming back and landing. So very fast. The ship needs to go around the Earth, and you need the ground track to line up with your launch pad. So depending upon what orbital inclination you go for, it's anywhere from the ship will come back in anywhere from an hour and a half to half a day. Once it's in low Earth orbit, it circles the Earth every 90 minutes.
I think you said something like, if Earth gravity was 10% lower, it would be easy mode, pretty much.
Yeah.
And if it was 10% higher, it would be completely impossible or something.
Yeah. Maybe not completely impossible. If it was 20% higher, we would not know how to solve it. So it's very nonlinear. Yeah, even a small increase in Earth gravity would make it almost basically impossible.
Yes, we got pretty lucky.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if a video game was set to super hard but not impossible.
It's just beatable.
Just barely. The fastest way to go over long distances would be Rocket 2. I mean, on this last launch, Starship went halfway around the Earth from South Texas to about 1,000 miles off the coast of Australia in less than an hour. So it's traveling around 26,000 kilometers an hour. Starship mogging the planet. Yeah. Rockets are allowed, though. So tough to land them near a city. The next generation, yeah. The current Starlinks are at 550 kilometers, and the next generation will be 350. So
What would that theoretically reduce their nets by?
well, a good way to think of it, like speed of light in vacuum or air is about 300 kilometers per millisecond, and the packet's going to go up to the satellite, then down to the internet, then back up to the satellite, and back to you. So it's going to go up, down, up, down. So you can take the distance, multiply it by 4, divide that by 300, and that will give you the speed of light constraint. So if the satellite's exactly overhead and it's just up, so we're pretty close. It's going to take about a millisecond up, millisecond down. So it's about, I guess you'd have about a 5 millisecond speed of light constraint. You can't go past. So 5 milliseconds is pretty low, obviously. So most of the latency is not speed of light. It's the rest of the internet. So the thing that'll actually have the biggest impact on latency will be having the Starlink antennas just on the roof of the server. Wherever the server center is, just have the Starlink terminal. Starlink sort of gateway on the roof, then it'll just bounce direct from your terminal to the server center, and it won't even touch the internet. So even if the whole internet goes down, as long as the servers are up, you will still be able to communicate. And it's way faster to so speed of light in cable is slower than speed of light in air or vacuum. So you can do a little over 200 kilometers per millisecond in fiber optic, and 300 in air and vacuum. So, and then you should be able to have a more direct route. So Starlink should be the best. It should really crush on long distance latency. Like if you're trying to go intercontinental, because if you look at the sort of how the fibers trace, they tend to trace the outlines of the continents. So it's kind of, when a packet is like traveling, say, from California to South Africa, it's going on a very circuitous route. It's not going in a straight line in fiber optic. And it's going only about 70% as fast as the photon's moving, only about 70% as fast as it would in air and vacuum. So Starlink can have a more direct route, and it's going 40% faster. So basically, physics is on your side if you're going through space.
It'd be great for us gamers,
Yeah,
especially those who don't have access to like a fiber network or something.
yeah. You won't need fiber or anything. It should be better than any ground connection for anything long distance. But apart from like sort of financial traits, real-time video games are the toughest use case. So if we're testing, that's the hardest thing to make work is real-time video games, where you need a low latency and not just low latency, but a very low jitter and packet loss. It's definitely fixable, because the antenna is capable of switching satellites in less than a millisecond. So it's really it's kind of a software. We just need to make the software better. We'll keep at it until it's perfect. The critical feedback is appreciated. Thank you. Some questions from the stream. Will SpaceX release special edition Flappy merch? Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll do some Flappy rocket merch. Flappy, the rocket that. Yeah, I can't believe that ship actually made it all the way to the ocean and started the engines with the half melted flap.
Stainless steel for the carry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if it had been aluminum or carbon fiber, it would be toast. Yeah, it's cool. It's like the SpaceX team knows like what parts are like, where is it likely to fail? So as soon as it passes, like, oh, it didn't fail there, then everyone's like, yeah. Something that's sort of like makes you really think like maybe we're in a simulation or something is that Werner von Braun wrote a book about Mars where the leader of Mars was called Elon. That's what I said. That's like, come on, there's no way.
I heard about that.
There's no coincidences in this world.
But I'm like, that has to be some sort of that can't be real. And I'm told it's real. Yeah, I'm like, come on, like seriously. But I'm told that he did, in fact. I don't know. I mean, I still don't believe it. But it still sounds. It sounds impossible, but apparently he did. So either somebody went to a lot of trouble to fake it, it's kind of impressive fake, or it's real. Either way, that's definitely like, okay, we're in a simulation, man. There's no way. 100%, exactly. It's like, no, like that's impossible. So like, then are we somebody's Diablo character or something like that? I don't know. Maybe a funny comment in the stream. Tech productivity is going to grind to a halt when Elden Ring DLC comes out. What next steps are required for SpaceX to build a functional Starship Earth-to-Earth transport? Well, as soon as we can reliably get to orbit and back, you can start doing Earth-to-Earth stuff. So, whether you catch the rocket back at the launch site or on the other side of the world, pretty much the same thing. So, it's really just, is there a commercial reason to... It needs to be, I guess, commercially viable. It's like technically viable as soon as Starship can get back to, can land at all, you can land anywhere on Earth. Getting asked, like, what are my views on teleportation in real life? I do not think teleportation is physically possible. It might be cool. Sometimes there's some things where it would be cool, but if what it would imply for other things in reality would be problematic. So like conservation of energy is actually very important. Like the laws of thermodynamics, like we couldn't exist if the laws of thermodynamics might be annoying, but reality could not exist without them. The three laws of thermodynamics. Rule 1 is you can't win. Rule 2 is you can't break even. And rule 3 is you can't get out of the game. I'll find out when the TV OS X app is coming out. I think it's going to depend on which TV. I love you guys too. I don't know. I think just birthday plans are just dinner with friends. No big party plan. I go find out what's happening with little X. I'm just going to go check on my kid for 2 minutes. I'll be back shortly. The kids are just watching Minions. Will we add it just like button on X? I think we generally should have more complex feedback than is currently available. Somebody in the chat just had a good suggestion for an AI dog name, which is BYTE, bite. It's like, does your dog bite? Hey, X. What is the bear doing? Dada is the bear.
What the fighting person is doing?
Well, we're going through this dungeon, and we're fighting the monsters, and then we're gonna get like some treasure. See, look, I'm a werewolf. Werewolf, werewolf.
Giant bear.
See, I turn into a bear, and then I also just, in a split second, turn into a wolf too.
Only the bear.
Yeah, those are friendly wolves.
Wolves are getting loud.
Those are my friends wolves. So some wolves are friendly and some are unfriendly. Castle.
No, bear. No bear has special living. This bear this bear in that bear. From this bear, SpaceX. Starships smaller from SpaceX. Hey, over there, and you see that? It goes around over there. It finds it.
Do you want to listen?
The treasure.
No.
Hello, X.
X, we're looking for treasure bags and treasure goblins. He's like, what is all this?
Look, see?
It's a lot of
He's fighting. Where's Baby Y?
Baby Y is in California.
Where's Gravedigger?
Gravedigger the monster truck.
Where's Sparkle Smash?
Sparkle Smash.
Where's
Or
Bone
like-
Shaker?
He was a
There's-
monster truck when I was a kid.
Somebody was asking Elon for the impressions of the Steam beta client in the Tesla. D4 could run like a champ on the AMD NVIDIA SoC.
You play video games while your Tesla is self-driving.
It's not legal yet, but inevitably that will happen.
So it is possible. It's just not legal.
Yeah, we have to turn it off. You have to turn off. You're not allowed to play video in the front screen or any kind of interactive game. So we can play it in the rear screen. But once things are, approved for self-driving, basically people are just going to sit in the car and be on their phone or watch a movie on the screen.
Just tell, drive me to the airport or anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'll just play Diablo 4
Yeah,
while on the road.
pretty much.
Probably connected with Starlink or
Yeah, cars are all going to drive
That's
themselves.
the future I'm looking forward to.
Yep, it's going to be humanoid robots everywhere, and people will look back and think, "Wow, they used to drive the cars themselves. That's crazy. That's crazy." I mean, anyway.
Those pedals you speak.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like it's similar to like X just typing random things in the chat.
What's he doing?
That's you 15 seconds ago.
Is it covered?
That's YouTube.
Please, no, just say it no. No.
X is taking over the chat.
X is taking over. He's just causing chaos.
He's just swiping. It's so good.
What do you want to do?
Rescue Rocket. From the Rockets get mad. From the Falcon Heavies get mad. Falcon Heavies get mad.
Falcon Heavy.
Is there rockets in here?
There are no rockets in here.
Are there rockets?
Spirit bomb.
I
Missile
can turn into bats and fly around.
Turn the
Yeah,
back.
Steam in a Tesla. Here it
Is
is.
he turn on back?
Okay, so I can turn into bats.
Wait, Elon. We just did it from any place.
Spinning the loot at you. A unique item.
All right, X, I think it's time for
Pretty good
bed.
damage reduction.
You have to go to bed. You have to
Elon, you're gonna go to bed now.
Well, he likes to he likes turning things around. When I say like you have to go to bed, like no, you have to go to bed. I mean, I do at some point have to go to bed. It's true, I do.
You have
What if I agree with you, and we both go to bed? Oh, all
to turn the light on in this daddy's room.
right, guys, I'm gonna call it a night. It was fun playing.
Verbal or life.